Parents whose adult children don't speak to them. It's painful, it's often filled with shame, and it's far more common than we realize. Personally, I've been on both sides of that terrible equation. If you'd like to hear my story, comment below and I'll make a video. Just recently, I teamed up with a licensed clinical social worker named Gotautle to put together a support group for the parents whose adult children aren't speaking to them. Please stay tuned for clips from an interview Art did on the Lisa Wexler show on WICC. It's a fascinating discussion, and the entire podcast is available in the link below.
Arthur Gottlieb is a psychotherapist and counselor in private practice. He has taught and been in our community for a long time. He has hosted many different support groups. And what caught my eye is that he started one this summer in Milford for adults who are suffering from the pain of their estranged adult children. What is helpful about being in a support group?
The magic of a group, what makes a group work, you have people around you who understand uniquely what this has been like for you. In the shame and the stigma of this, having your kids not speaking to you, a person winds up feeling as though they are uniquely defective. And what you find out in a group is that other people around you that seem smart, they seem professional, they seem completely together, that the same thing happened to them. So the term we use on that is called normalization. So this can happen to people no matter what your status, what your station in life is, no matter what your education, you are not uniquely defective or made some grotesque mistake to have this happen.
Do you counsel the women, Arthur, to apologize to their children?
I don't use a formula. You see, the tricky part with that, with apologizing. Let's say, for instance, somebody comes in and they present to me, I have to learn how to live with the fact that my son doesn't talk to me, right? Okay. So the thing is that I have to maximize with this person the ability to reconcile that situation if it's possible, and at the same time to empower the person sitting in front of me. Okay, and I am not going to tell somebody to grovel to somebody who has done them wrong. You see, if I've got I'm a battered women's counselor, and in the case we're talking about mothers in this case, what I don't want to do is add to the insult and the injury of my client. My first responsibility is to my client. Okay. They have come to me, and they need to gain some shred of confidence. They need to gain some shred of getting their life back or starting their life perhaps for the first time. So while I want them, if it's possible, to reconcile, I am not going to ask them to do something that's going to actually add to the injury.
Parental alienation is a thing, and I've had a lot of experts on that have said that that has been abused by the family court system to, this triangulation that you're talking about gets magnified. A child is put in between. A child makes choices that are in the best interests of that child at that time, but then the child becomes an adult. And one would hope that at 18, 20, 21, 24, they get some perspective. Maybe that child can see that the mother lost, in quotes, because she had fewer resources. Are most children growing up and seeing the divorce from a different perspective, or are they stuck?
The big hinge point for a child that is a young adult to somebody who might be making that recalculation that you're talking about is that when they get into a serious relationship themselves. And now, let's say, for instance, it's a young man, and he enters into a mature relationship himself, and he sees it's not so easy, and he sees a different perspective via the fact that he's with somebody now who could be potentially his wife. And it depends on who that woman is. She will either facilitate the separation from the parent, or she will cause that person, to the son, to actually take a second look at it and say, maybe this isn't fair from a woman's perspective. It really is an independent thing. The fascinating thing for me as a counselor is that every single person, every system, and I deal in systems, is its own unique universe. Every single one.
Like me as a judge, every case.
Right.
Every case or controversy is different.
I have to break it down, and you look at the elements, and that's when my analysis begins. And then some people have more options than other.
Do you ever independently step back and say, notwithstanding all you're talking about empowerment and feelings, that there would be an independent reason to try and say, yeah, I might have made some mistakes here?
Well, of course, if there are mistakes that you can recount. In other words, yeah, sure. If you had an argument and you said some things, then of course I want to, so apologize for that. Like you mentioned before, I am very much where the tire hits the road.
Yeah.
I'm a very pragmatic counselor.
Okay.
And I don't believe in just rote formulas or anything else like that. Every single situation is unique. And I am only going to have my client do something or recommend that they do something that is going to be beneficial to them or that's going to work.
We're talking about adults who are estranged from their children. Are you one of those adults? Do you know somebody like that? It's very painful. We'll be right back.
Like those with the most resources.
Win?
Win, yes.
So, Arthur, a lot of pain from these adults. And what we started out saying is that very often they're a result of divorce. If they're not a result of divorce, what are some other situations that would give rise to a child not speaking to a parent?
This is a gentleman, actually. And his wife was tragically killed in an accident. And then he had the nerve to fall in love and marry somebody else, some 16 years later, by the way. And then his adult children, his two oldest daughters, called him and said, well, what are you doing with the will? And he says, well, I think I'm going to make my new wife the primary beneficiary of the will. And they felt that that was a betrayal. So the man is estranged from his two oldest daughters for 20 years, and they're making sure it's as painful as possible because he tries to do everything he can by sending letters, etc., to the point where they say, don't send me any more letters. I don't want your grandchildren even knowing who you are. And so that is deliberate malice. They want to hurt him as badly as possible. And the sad part is everybody seems to have enough money in the system, so it's not, and ironically, the woman that this fellow married she's, despite the fact that the kids seem to think she's a gold digger, she's wealthy on her own. My thing is empowering people, no matter what age you're at. You see, and it's always clunky. It seems like a lot of adult kids, or even kids who become adult kids, have this notion that their parents are there to be their parents in the way that they envision them forever. And when the parent has the nerve to go and empower themselves to be who they are, the children find that unacceptable. Like, you're not allowed to do that.
So there's a lot of entitlement there.
Yeah, that's correct. In this particular situation, one of the mistakes that was made, and you have to dig in and find out what happened, is that love got enmeshed with kind of like this transactional monetary system. You see what I mean?
I think it's very often that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, I love you, so I'm going to buy you this. I love you, I'm going to buy you this. And money gains a currency in these systems that turns toxic.
Yes. So one of the most common probate contest scenarios is second wife, first children. Very common.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to counsel these children who were telling you, yeah, it may not sound good to you, Arthur, but the truth is we were so upset about him marrying this other woman that we just couldn't face him, we don't talk to our dad anymore. What would be your advice to them?
They get into a groove where things make sense to them and they feel justified about being the way that they are. So despite the fact that people actually say that they want to reconcile, or there seems to be a possibility, it's really just political theater because they don't. They want to be able to say that, you see that, we tried counseling and it didn't work. So they'll find a way to sabotage it. People, they get into a way that makes it seem like, whatever rationalization it is, that we're right. And they want to stay right. And the last thing you want to have is to make that person you've demonized, in this particular case, the man, the father, you don't want to make him seem normal. Because that means that you're going to have to rethink what you're thinking, and you're already so invested in it that you don't want to have to do
So
it.
what do you say to the father to help him work through?
My toolbox for working with people depends on what their spiritual beliefs are, what their attitude is, and every single person is different. You know, it's every case I come up to is unique. And I ask myself, what are the tools that I need to use in this situation that apply to this situation? One person in one situation will be completely different than another person who has experienced the same phenomena.
But you're accepting the reality of the estrangement.
I always start with where we are. You have to accept reality. If you can't accept reality, if you cannot see things the way they are, you cannot move.
Yeah. I'm saying the acknowledgement of what is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always reel people back in to something concrete that we can do.
I really think Arthur Gottlieb with this support group that's just beginning, I think you're really onto something, because I think that this is much more pervasive than people talk about.
There's a number of people I know who told me that this group would be beneficial for them, but they barely even want to admit the situation to themselves.
That's right.
They found a way to kind of coexist with it,
Yeah.
as painful as it is.
Yeah.
And they have a box in front of them that they've managed to stick enough duct tape on that the thing's not going to explode in front of them.
That's right. So
And they
can just
don't
go
want to
and-
open it.
That's right. Because it is so painful.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you're somebody who's thinking that you'd like to scratch at this and maybe be able to work through the pain with other people who are estranged from their adult children, email for Arthur Gottlieb so that you can reach out to him.
What I found out was there was tremendous interest in it, and when it got down to it, people were so ashamed that they wanted to talk to me in person, just not in front of others.
Well, that's also good to know that you're available for that too.
I am.
Thank you so much, Arthur, for coming into the studio.
As a probate court judge, Lisa Wexler recognizes the devastation that this situation causes in families, and I thank her for taking it on her show. Future episodes on my channel will include this topic from the perspective of the adult child, how to have challenging conversations, parental alienation. So from myself to yourself, thank you for joining me on this journey, and let me know which topics you'd like to hear about next. They're all very important. Thank you.